be able to keep going to that same source time and time again. Well, if you walked away from that transaction feeling like you've been shafted, for the lack of a better term, you're not coming back. You're not going to be back. And if I'm hearing you correctly, Scott, you want your folks to sit down and listen to the customer, identify what they need, and focus on coming up with something that's going to fill that need.
That is so correct, Bruce. You have no idea how correct that is. I mean, you and I have both been at the buying end, and there's nothing worse than being sold to.
I hate that. You know it just like that.
Yep, you pick it up straight away. And that's not what this game is about. It really isn't, I mean, it's one of the few industries, and that's what I love about the IT industry, and also what I love about GFI. I mean, it's one of the things, and I haven't said this before because I really hate it when people say this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to break all my own rules.
Okay.
I've been with GFI for 9 years. And I was before this, I was in the middleware side of things. So Java application development, all custom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, back in the day, that was called vaporware, right?
Right.
And one of the things about coming across to GFI that really excited me is they had products that said they did something, and they actually did it.
I understand.
It's an incredible, it's fabulous to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to listen to an organization and being able to actually help solve their problems and know you've done it well because you have the products behind you and you have the support team behind. Our support is brilliant. We have a fabulous support team, and it's something we didn't touch on. But once again, the support team is incredible here. And the feedback that I get from partners when they compare us to other vendors is wonderful. It really is. I wish I could just put that up on the web every time,
mm-hmm.
which of course you can't. But but that was one of the things about GFI that's so exciting, is that not only are you in an industry where you're solving people's problems, you're actually hearing, the issue, that they have. You're actually managing to solve those problems and successfully do it, in an incredibly short amount of time, at a price point that doesn't break them while you're at it.
Right.
You can actually go out and spend money on something else. And walk away with a smile on your face. It's great.
Let me ask you this. What, and I know this is probably going to be a very difficult question to answer, and I actually thought long and hard before I put it in there, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you see as the next big thing in network security? What should we be, do you see anything on the radar that we should be maybe, or do you have something coming onto the radar that maybe we should be thinking about?
Okay, that's a difficult question.
I understand.
I mean, we are primarily into security, and I'm going to talk, I guess, more personally than I am from a company perspective on this. There's two areas that I see, because if you look at I'm delving back into the brain cells here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So bear with me.
Right.
If you look at the history of threats and viruses and malware over the years, and I'm looking down because I'm doodling while I'm doing this, so I'm thinking very hard, right?
Okay.
But if you go back through the history, right, and we're going to go on a little history tour here. Malware started because people could, right?
Right.
Not because of anything else, but they could. And there was a rule. They wanted to break it. They broke it. And then the media got hold of it and they published it. So then what happened was people started doing this for notoriety. So you got a few people that got published fairly heavily, and they went, hey, "Look how cool I am! Now I'm international by writing a virus." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, that morphed, and there was a criminal element that got involved, right? And that's where we're at now. It's just getting smarter and smarter as they go. So the criminal element got involved in this malware because they knew they could make money from it. And then what happened is they realized that, hey, this internet thing is really cool, and we can just scam people as well. So not only can I do malware to hack stuff from people, but I can actually just send out advertising at them, which is all false, and try and scam a credit card here or there.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that. So the criminal element started making a lot of money. Now, it's gotten so sophisticated now that you can hire a botnet for an hour for $1,500.
Oh, it's cheaper than that.
Well, okay. Price has gone down.
Yeah, lots of competition now out there. Yep.
But in essence, that malware hasn't really changed a whole hell of a lot, right?
Right.
It has gotten a little bit more sophisticated. You know, the botnets are out there, and they're out there in droves. I think the quantity has changed, right? Mm-hmm. There's far more volume. But essentially, it's kind of at this level, and it's not increasing, you know, in nastiness. They're finding different ways, and we're staying on top of it. Right? We've got a handle on that. So interestingly enough, for me and what I've been seeing is it's the data leakage that is a real issue.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one. So there's two things here. So data leakage is a real problem. And that's happening. And it's not just because people have managed to hack into a network. And this is from just your general user not being educated properly. So we have a real problem in that zone where, you know, companies are losing IP. They're losing, you know, confidential information via laptops being stolen, left behind some area, USB stick left out in an airport, an employee carelessly sending information out they shouldn't have because they just didn't know any better.
Right.
It may not have been malicious.
Right.
So there's this real area there that we have a lot of growth potential. Right. Okay, so there's that. So that's point one. I'll keep that reasonably brief now that we did the history. The next one for me is social networking.
Let's talk about that.
I believe social networking is a real problem, and it's really open to the criminal element. All you have to do is go onto and I won't name them, but you go onto the popular social networking sites. You look up someone you think you might know. Have a look at their photos. Have a look at the family they put up. Have a look at the fact that they're off on holidays and they're posting holiday shots. I mean, think about that. Okay, now I've got your name. I know who you are. I could fake being you, or I could just go around to your place and steal everything because I know you're not home.
Exactly.
Right? And this gets down to, this is social engineering at its finest because they don't even have to try. The criminal element's got all the information, the entire universe, and there it is.
Right.
And unfortunately, the general user doesn't think too heavily about, you know, how much information they're giving away and what that can mean to them, right? And people like us, we've got to sit back and think like a criminal, unfortunately. Yeah,
well, you know, there's apps out there right now every day popping up. For example, I'm a big iPhone user, and you know, there's sites like Foursquare and so forth that make a game and reward you with points to tell where you're at. You know, I'm at this restaurant, or I've just watched this movie, and what you're doing is effectively you're telling the bad guy where you're not at.
Correct.
Okay.
And Bruce, think about it. You're out of office auto reply.
Yep. There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
And I know for sure there have been the criminal element that do the spam, and they will, you know, do the directory harvesting. They will hammer the heck out of a domain.
Well, you know what? Let's get back to Web Monitor for a minute, okay?
Yeah,
you know, one of the things that would bother me is employees updating Facebook and, you know, putting information on Facebook about our business that doesn't belong there. Okay? I certainly would want some way to be alerted to that. You know what I'm saying? I just see that as so dangerous. Not only to the, you know, possibly to other could it possibly endanger other employees? Could endanger their jobs? I mean, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, you have to protect the company.
And it's like the Wild West out there right now.
Ah, yes, it is. Absolutely.
You know, and maybe so I'm draconian, but to me, a good policy is to, you know Facebook on company equipment. But that's me. That's my personal thing right there.
And you can do that with Web Monitor. You can block social networking sites so that people can't go and do it. Now, they might go home and do it, but at least you're protecting the company at that point. And that's really important. But you know what, Bruce? The second part to this is actually educating users. Mm-hmm. Because we're having this conversation, And, you know, everyone who's listening to us at the moment, some of us might have thought about this, some of us might not have thought about it. But I can assure you there's going to be a few people scratching their heads going, you know what, I never really looked at that before. And when you start to think about it, then you kind of,